Joining us now, Khaled Elgindy, Senior Fellow at the Middle East Institute, also author of Blind Spot, America and the Palestinians from Balfour to Trump. You see it there on your screen. It's good to see you. So how significant would it be that Ibrahim Akil and many in the chain of command for this Radwan unit were killed or wounded in this strike in Beirut? How much of a blow for Hezbollah, especially coming after the pager and walkie-talkie attacks?
I mean, it's clearly a blow. Anytime you take out a senior commander, and now the reports are that there were many in this unit that were taken out after Hezbollah had already lost another senior commander several weeks ago. So, of course, it's a blow. I'm not sure it's a fatal blow, but particularly after the pager attacks, it's, clearly Hezbollah's communications are compromised, and that's something that they're going to have to work through. And I'm sure it's creating panic inside the organization.
Many civilians, including children, were killed in that strike, and the pager and walkie-talkie attacks killed and maimed children and civilians as well. Human rights and other organisations have been saying those attacks by their nature are indiscriminate. They are random. No one knew where these devices would explode and who would be killed or hurt. Does Israel risk further international criticism for potential violations of international law for these tactics?
I think so. I mean, I think they've raised the bar. I think they've lowered the bar in terms of human rights and international humanitarian law, but have really introduced, I think, a really dangerous new development into modern warfare. And if we can even call it that, I think it is because there are random attacks, they're indiscriminate. I think it's sort of the textbook definition of terrorism. So I think it's an extremely dangerous, a very dangerous thing. But from Israel's standpoint, they can withstand some criticism as long as there are no real consequences. I mean, Israel has faced criticism over its conduct of the war in Gaza for now almost a full year. And yet have persisted. I mean, this has gone all the way up to the International Court of Justice that's investigating Israel for the crime of genocide. So there is no deterrent simply by criticizing Israel. The only thing Israel will care about is if there's any interruption in its weapons flows. Or technology or any kind of political sanction.
And to that point, I mean, the US didn't know what Israel was going to do ahead of time with the pages, at least. What does that, along with Netanyahu putting constant roadblocks in the way of a Gaza ceasefire and so on, say about US influence when it comes to Israel? I mean, the Netanyahu government under Netanyahu just does what it wants, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think if I were in the Biden administration, I'd be wondering what this special relationship means if the United States has been Israel's most stalwart ally, has supplied weapons at great cost to themselves, to their credibility, to U.S. international standing, and to be treated to not even be informed. But frankly, it would be bad either way. Had they been informed and allowed it to continue, allowed the attack to go ahead, then they would have been complicit. The fact that they're not informed shows, frankly, how one-sided the special relationship is. How much regard does Israel have for its primary benefactor is questionable. But
When you look at the totality of all that's been happening, particularly when it comes to Israel, Lebanon, how much closer is that all-out war that everyone has been trying to avoid or saying they're trying to avoid?
Yeah, I mean, I think we may have passed the stage of being at the brink of all-out war. I think Israel and Hezbollah are at war. It's just a question now of how deep and how big that war is going to be, but there's no question they're already at war, and the fact that there is no ceasefire in Gaza, no prospect for a ceasefire, the Biden administration has essentially thrown up its arms and says, saying, there's nothing more that can be done on the ceasefire process for at least the remainder of Biden's term. So now we're just watching this escalation happen on its own without any real intervention by outside actors.
Yeah. Got to leave it there, unfortunately. Khaled Elgindy, thanks so much.
Thank you.